it's Makoto Takeda. He's the founder and CEO of Bistream and also AsiaBerlin ambassador. Hello. How are you, Makoto?
Nice meeting you.
Oh,
Fine, thank you.
If you could sit
Okay.
here. We're following the
Too
social
close to you.
distance. I know.
You have to keep that distance, that's right.
I'm very radiant, you know. So this is the camera.
Okay.
So Makoto, so you grew up in Germany, but originally from Japan, and so you're the epitome of the bridge builder and cross-border collaboration between the two ecosystems. So please share us, what is your connection to the AsiaBerlin community here in Berlin?
All right. I don't know where to begin to answer that question because it also involves my biography, right?
Yeah.
You know, with Asians, you have to be very cautious about age, right? So I'm going to be upfront and tell you that I'm almost 50, okay? Almost 50.
I wouldn't believe it.
And I have just realized that I have spent half of my life in Japan and the rest of the other half in Germany. So right now I have a good balance between the two, two countries in terms of living and relationships, right? So my relationship with Berlin began actually when I lived here as a child in West Berlin at that time. And later, after having my school education, university education, I came to Berlin, and that was already 20 years ago. So since 2000, I live in this city. And at that time, Berlin was a very, very different city. I think Rainer knows this very well, of course. At times, the unemployment rate was something like 18%, right? And now it's really a booming city. And although right now we are really undergoing a very difficult phase, but I really trust in the energy that this Berlin community has, yes.
For sure. Thank you so much. We're very excited. And so what at least when I think about Makoto, I think about many things, but one that is very clear is so you initiated these cross-border talent exchanges, and one of the programs is Startup Dojo program. So can you share a bit more about your vision for it and some success stories from it?
Right. So in the year 2013, I think it was, when I realized that there was really something going on around me. I mean, it actually started much earlier. I just didn't get it, right? And then as a latecomer, I realized, wow, I mean, there are so many interesting people building their own companies, right? They were in their 20s, in their 30s. Some quit their jobs. Some didn't have a job and didn't have an alternative than to create a company to survive. Anyhow, there were so many entrepreneurs in Berlin, and that was really surprising for me, given that I have the background that I lived in Tokyo for a long, long time. And my generation of people, you know, who grew up in Japan and lived in Tokyo, I think had this sense that, you know, in order to live, you have to work. You have to earn money. In order to earn money, you have to work. In order to work, you have to go to a big company, right? And have a secure position, right? And then that means actually that, you know, you're not really choosing maybe the kind of work that you really want to do. So work is just a measure to survive, right? I saw this wonderful poster, which is like which I see every morning. It's right around the corner of my house. And it says, I want to work without disguising myself. And I really like that, you know, because thinking about my background in Japan, I think it's basically about disguise, right? It's not, I can't just, you know, do what I want to do, because if I just do what I want to do, maybe I can't earn money. It's not that easy. So I should then apply for a job and work for a company. And then what I was realizing in Berlin was that, no, it doesn't necessarily have to be that way. Yeah? It's not easy, but you can really believe in yourself, in your idea, and you can realize that. So I thought, wow, how do I bring that? You know, how do I bring this spirit to Japan? You know, I would really love to see Japanese people to be inspired by this. Now, a lot of things are happening in Japan, right? Lots and lots of interesting things are happening. But still in the corporate world, I think that change is not happening that quickly. And this is also damaging the performance of the corporations in Japan and also the economy as a whole. So I believe in transformation, not only in the young people who found their own businesses, but also in the potential of the companies to innovate themselves. In order to do that, we have initiated this program called Startup Dojo. Now, our customers are Japanese corporations that send their young talents to Berlin, and we place them into young startup companies in Berlin that have roughly the size of like 20 to 30 people, a young dynamic team, and they work as a team member of this startup for, let's say, 2 to 3 months, and then bring that experience back to their corporation to drive organizational change from within.
That's really amazing and very needed. I wish we spoke with the CEO of Inform, but I know that Inform was one of the startups that you actually provided some talent from Japan. So if you could share a bit about that success.
All right, yeah. So there is this company called JX Mining and Metals. It is a very large corporation with a long tradition in Japan. And they wanted to test the Startup Dojo with us. And at that time, I thought, okay, since this is a customer who tests this for the first time with us, we may want to have a company that does not disappear in 1 month. So we went to a company that already had an amazing track record, had a stable team, and that was Inform at that time, as one of the candidates we had. And I think they had about 200 employees when the first dojo trainee from JX joined. And by the time this dojo trainee went back to Japan, I think Inform had grown to 400 people or something. And I think now they have even more people.
Wow. That's really amazing success. And there are so many other stories. I wish we had more time. But so you're also mentoring a lot of different programs, and one of them is in second largest city in Japan.
Before I go to that question,
yes.
can I tell something about that Inform corporation? Thank you, because I didn't tell you the most important part of it. You see that this trainee came from a large Japanese corporation, right? And then stayed at Inform for exactly 100 days, and went back and brought a whole range of changes to the company already. Yeah, he introduced new ideas, especially like breaking down the walls between the departments, which is very, very important for innovation. And I found that very exciting that he did that. The other thing that I found very exciting was that when he joined Inform, Inform was just about to expand to Japan. So they needed people who can do research about the Japanese market. Of course, they have done research before, but that research was ongoing. For example, what kind of product would really be, good for the Japanese market, would mean high margins, right? And so this trainee from Japan, because he can speak the language, right, and knows the culture, he did a lot of research and helped the company in expanding to Japan. He also helped in the communication between Inform's potential customers, right? Because a lot of technical things had to be cleared, and he was an engineer. So he could do that technical communication in Japanese with Inform's potential future customers. And that helped them a lot.
Wow. And also it's important to note to the audience that it's not really young talent. I mean, it's professionals that are experts in their own fields, right? So the average age is, what would you say?
I would say between 22, 23 and 35 maybe.
Okay, that's great. Back to the mentoring question. As far as for Berlin-based companies to understand also like what are some opportunities in Japan for them. So in the second largest city in Osaka in Japan, so you're mentoring startup bootcamp program. And so how can Japanese corporates support and co-create with international startups, specifically maybe in Berlin?
Yeah. The Startup Bootcamp in Osaka is running this program called Scale Up Osaka, right? And they are inviting startups from all over the world to participate in their acceleration program, which is essentially a POC program in cooperation with local Japanese corporations. And they are large corporations like train operators, internet operators, and so forth. So these startups that come outside of Japan can have a local partner who has, partner networks, customer networks to run a proof of concept right? And then also prove that this will be successful in the Japanese market. So I think this is a very attractive program for international startups, and it doesn't cost anything.
Wow.
Yeah. Now, so far, I understand it is only really Australian companies that have been successful, that have been really doing this. So I would really like to encourage startups from Germany, especially from Berlin, to take advantage of this program.
Thank you so much. That is very useful. So back to Startup Dojo. So how can people find you? How can they work with you as far as Japanese corporates or startups here in Berlin?
All right. So let me first address the startup community.
Yeah.
We are always very eager to work with startups that are interested in going to Japan, right? Because if they have an employee from a Japanese corporation, then it helps also to build relationship to the Japanese society through this one person. It really does, because you already realize that there is a cultural difference, and there's a lot that both sides can learn from each other. So a startup that would be interested in developing a business in the future in Japan would be our most suited candidates, I would say. So if you are that startup, please write to me. You can find us at bistream.de. Yeah.
Very cool. Well, thank you so much, Makoto. We're just checking questions from the audience, from our community, and we hope you're using that Q&A feature. Just a second. So AsiaBerlin community is quite wide, and we focus also on India as one of our largest kind of partner countries. And we have one question from the audience. So for a US headquarter company with operations in India, is there a possibility of applying for an incubator or collaboration role in Japan? So it's pretty general, but...
Okay, I don't think I'm the right person to answer that question. So maybe, can we go to that next one?
Yes. But I think still, no matter where the company is headquartered, I think for the partners, it could be for an incubation project, like a startup bootcamp program. It's open to international founders.
Sure.
But all right, so we don't have any questions yet, but we will open up our breakout rooms. So Makoto will have his own, so you just click on the Google Hangout link and you can directly interact with all of the speakers. And but before I do that, Makoto, do you have any other call to action or anything you'd like to close with?
Thank you, Elena, for giving me another minute. I try to be short. Yeah. So apart from that Startup Dojo, we want to also help Berlin startups and German startups especially, but also European startups from the continent to launch in Japan, right? And we do that with our partners, our partner network. There are a couple of other stakeholders in this network. One is Basic Math, a company in Berlin. And together as a network of companies, we can execute the transition of a startup company in Berlin to do that operation in Japan. We have investors in this network, we have developers in this network, we have business developers, and we have also that Startup Dojo who are us, right? We provide essentially free language service, let's say, or free development for that startup company. So if a startup is seriously interested in going to Japan, which is a large market, it's the largest in software and SaaS and cloud, right? And then I think it would be meaningful to talk to us, because we can introduce them to not only to a large network, but we can also execute that part in Japan through our network.
Very cool. Thank you so much, Makoto. Just one more question from the audience here. So you did address it a bit, but if you maybe can expand about the POC collaboration in Japan, is there any? They would like to know some more details, how to go about it, maybe through your programs, or just some more details on that.
Okay, I think the question relates to the Scale Up Osaka program, right?
Yeah.
So I would just say, go to their website, Scale Up Osaka, and you will see a bunch of details. I mean, how to apply. They have just started application for their second batch. They have finished their first, which was very successful. And one aspect that I would like to highlight about Scale Up Osaka is that they are really culture and language sensitive because they are on the ground in Osaka. They are in Japan. So for example, they did this online pitch event, right, in Japan because you can't do it offline now. And they were one of the first ones who did this kind of online pitch event in Japan. And the interesting thing is that they translated the pitch into Japanese. So everyone could see, all the pitch in the subtitle in the Japanese language. So that, of course, drew attention of a lot of Japanese corporations and investors. Because a lot of the important people that you want to reach don't understand your language. So you have to bear that in mind.
So I know we talked backstage a little bit about something, but would you like to opportunity to address a Japanese audience or about something?
That's right. はい。もし日本の企業の方でですね、今お聞きになっていらっしゃる方がいらっしゃいましたら、私たちベルリンにいましてスタートアップ道場というのをやってます。で、これは日本の企業向けにですね、企業の若手の人材をベルリンでお預かりして、こちらのスタートアップ企業にですね、2ヶ月、3ヶ月派遣をして、ここでのですね、スタートアップのグローバルなですね、ビジネスの作り方というのを学んで日本に帰るという、そういうトレーニングになります。ご関心がありましたら、bystream.de までどうぞご連絡ください。Thank you for giving me that opportunity.